Something snapped in Spain, and it wasn't just the car. Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, stepped out of his Ferrari and didn't even try to sugarcoat it. Worst race balance-wise, he admitted, voice tight, eyes blank. But the phrase that really rattled the paddock was colder, 0 positives. That's not a debrief, it's a warning shot. The SF25, Ferrari's supposed masterpiece, has turned into a nightmare. And for Hamilton, the dream of a legacy-sealing chapter with the most iconic team in Formula One is looking more like a cruel joke. The race result says 6th place, but the real story happened on lap 9. A team order, a quiet swap, and a sudden shift in status. What began as a bold new partnership is now unravelling into something darker. Mistrust, internal politics, and a car that just won't listen. But the real question is, was this just a bad weekend? Or the beginning of a full-blown Ferrari implosion? Lap 9. That's when the script flipped. Ferrari gave a quiet but unmistakable order. Let Charles Leclerc through. Hamilton didn't fight it. He followed orders. But that single moment rewrote the entire power dynamic inside the team, from contender to support role, from leading Ferrari's charge to stepping aside without question. Leclerc hadn't blown anyone away in qualifying. He was barely hanging on to 7th. But on Sunday, he was quicker, or maybe just more favoured. Once past Hamilton, Leclerc surged forward as if someone had unlocked cheat codes in his garage. Meanwhile, Hamilton dropped like a stone, trapped behind slower cars, unable to extract anything meaningful from the SF25. It wasn't just a matter of raw pace. The timing, the setup decisions, the quiet decisions behind the pit wall, they all told a story. A story of trust slowly draining away. Telemetry doesn't lie. Leclerc's car felt balanced. Hamilton's was unhinged. When one car slices through the field and the other skates helplessly, it's not just coincidence, especially not in Formula One, where every millimetre matters. What broke in Barcelona wasn't just the setup. It was the unspoken confidence between driver and team. Both Hamilton and Leclerc drive the SF25, but only one of them seems to actually understand it, or be understood by it. Ferrari insists both drivers receive identical equipment, but Barcelona's data suggests otherwise. Hamilton's complaints painted a clear picture. Instability under braking, grip loss in mid-corner, unpredictable behaviour on corner exit. Meanwhile, Leclerc described a car he could trust. Same chassis, completely different feel. Ferrari brushed it off as setup divergence. But that excuse is wearing thin. Hamilton's engineers tried everything, tweaking ride height, adjusting aero balance, experimenting with tyre pressures. Nothing worked. It wasn't just an uncooperative car, it was a car that refused to respond. And when the same technical tools work perfectly on one side of the garage and collapse on the other, the question becomes unavoidable. Is it just misfortune, or a deeper issue no one wants to name? Hamilton didn't lash out. He didn't point fingers, but the silence was damning. The team had no answers, and he knew it. That's when faith starts to fracture, not in the car, but in the people behind it. Hamilton and Ferrari were never a natural match. He's data-driven, laser-focused on precision and feedback. Ferrari, on the other hand, runs on instinct, passion, and legacy. When the partnership was announced, many hoped their differences would create brilliance, but now they're revealing cracks. Hamilton's style demands clarity. He wants to know why something's wrong, not just that it is. But Ferrari isn't built for that kind of transparency. In Barcelona, those differences boiled over. Behind the scenes, engineers whispered that Hamilton's feedback was too sensitive to his expectations, too complex. In other words, he's asking for a level of refinement the current structure can't or won't deliver. It's not that Ferrari doesn't care, it's that they're overwhelmed. They've built a car that demands compromise. And Hamilton doesn't compromise, he recalibrates, he pushes, he expects excellence. And when he doesn't get it, he speaks up. But this team isn't used to that level of challenge. They're used to loyalty, not confrontation. Hamilton didn't come to Ferrari to be a mascot. He came to win. And in Barcelona, it became painfully clear. He's not just racing rivals, he's battling tradition itself. Every race weekend starts with hope until the car hits the track. In Spain, Hamilton's SF25 was off from the first lap. Rear grip vanished mid-corner. The front tyres refused to bite. The more the team adjusted, the worse it got. By Sunday, they were chasing ghosts. Meanwhile, Leclerc's car came alive. It felt planted, balanced, raceable. So why the difference? The answer lies in Ferrari's narrow setup window. The SF25 is notoriously sensitive. Get it right, and it flies. Get it wrong, and it falls apart. Hamilton's side of the garage has been stuck in that trap all season. And Barcelona was the worst of it. Engineers couldn't stabilise the car's platform. Every adjustment introduced new problems. And while upgrades are on the way, revised rear suspension, floor tweaks, they weren't ready in time. Hamilton knew it. His race wasn't a failure of effort, it was a technical dead end. And when a driver that good can't fix the problems from inside the cockpit, the problem isn't the driver, it's the machine. There's a moment when frustration becomes something colder. Hamilton didn't scream on the radio. He didn't storm through the paddock. He disengaged. And that's more dangerous. Because when a champion stops reacting emotionally, it means they've started thinking strategically. Ferrari says help is coming, that the Austria or Canada upgrades will turn things around. But Hamilton's been around long enough to know that hope isn't a plan. He's watched teams chase performance with patchwork fixes, ignoring the root cause in favour of surface-level solutions. Barcelona wasn't just a bad race. It was a breaking point. Hamilton knew the car wasn't just slow, it was wrong. And no one in red could explain why. When he said, "I'm sure they won't find answers, it's probably just me," it wasn't defeat. It was sarcasm laced with accusation. That's what happens when trust runs out, not just in the car, but in the system that built it. Sixth place doesn't sound like disaster until you see who passed him. Nico Hülkenberg, in a Haas, outpaced Hamilton in the final laps. That wasn't just a stat. It was a symbol, Ferrari's star signing, a driver with one of the greatest resumes in F1 history, being swallowed by midfield traffic while his teammate celebrates on the podium. Sponsors noticed, rival teams noticed, and so did the fans. This isn't about one result, it's about perception. When the image of a team crumbles, everything becomes harder. Negotiations, morale, development pace. Hamilton's presence was supposed to elevate Ferrari, but instead it's exposing just how unprepared they are to support a driver of his caliber. Leclerc may still fit into Ferrari's chaotic rhythm, but Hamilton demands structure. And when that structure fails, it reflects back on the entire organisation. The risk isn't just losing a race, it's losing Hamilton altogether. Something's shifting inside the garage, and it's not just parts. After the race, Hamilton's distance from engineers was noticeable. There were no fiery debates, no passionate strategy reviews, just tiens. Meanwhile, Leclerc received praise, and team principal Frédéric Vasseur dodged the tough questions. Ferrari wants to project unity, but the paddock sees the fractures. This isn't a story of rivalry, it's a story of misalignment. If the next upgrades work, maybe Ferrari can turn things around, but if they don't, the consequences could be seismic. Hamilton didn't leave Mercedes for another rebuilding project. He came to win races, to fight for an 8th title, to cement a legacy. If Ferrari can't give him the tools, someone else eventually will. That's why the next races matter, not just for points, but for direction. If the SF25 continues to collapse under pressure, so will the partnership. And once Hamilton starts thinking about exits, the narrative changes entirely. Not redemption, rupture. Barcelona wasn't just another bad weekend. It was a message. Ferrari promised Hamilton a seat in history, but what they've delivered so far is confusion, chaos and silence. 6th place may not seem catastrophic, but it exposed every weakness inside the team's structure. And for Hamilton, it wasn't just about losing positions, it was about losing trust. The next few races will either reset the balance or push the team into open crisis. Ferrari says the future is coming in the form of upgrades, but Hamilton doesn't want promises, he wants progress. And if that progress doesn't come soon, Ferrari won't just lose races, they might lose the very man they hoped would lead them back to glory. So keep watching, because what's coming isn't just technical, it's personal. And the paddock is already counting down the days.